before you're ready. Welcome everybody to Three Non-Nerds, episode 5. My name is Nick Tesla. His name is
Brian McFadden.
Well, unfortunately, everybody, we just wanted to let you know Ebola had reached New Jersey. Hence, we're protecting ourselves. It's the only thing you can do these days, you know.
You can't be too safe.
You can't rely on the government, that's for sure. They're not going to protect you. You got to do what you got to do yourself to take whatever measures you have to, you know. You know, like if we let Chris Christie make sure we were safe, I'm pretty sure we'd be dead. Or he'd tell us to sit down and shut up and wait to die. So I don't know. But apparently Ebola has left New Jersey, and went to Maine and went on a nice early morning bike ride. As a matter of fact. But,
yeah, I heard something about that.
Hence, we're suited up. We're not going to let anything. We're not going to let anything in. Not going to let anything bother us.
If she was in contact with anybody when she was in New Jersey, remember it takes 42 days. The CDC says, not 21 before symptoms show.
21 days.
So we're gonna be wearing these for a while, I guess.
Yeah, I guess we will be wearing these for a while. I'm gonna get a little bit comfortable. For the reason we got these on is basically we had to come into the studio today, but the studio is quarantined off in a sense. Just try and ignore Brian's camera if you can, if you want to really believe that. But the studio is quarantined off. We got Has tents all around us, so we're in the middle. We had to quarantine for 21 minutes, as a matter of fact, before we could take all the equipment off. So we're actually almost there, so we'll be able to take it off soon. I believe we could take our masks off. They've cleared the air. Yeah, the air is clear, they're saying, so we could take the masks off, but I wouldn't take the suit off just yet. I don't even know. Maybe we might be able to get away with taking a glove off, but other than that, I don't know. We got a few different topics to touch on today. I'm going to go grab my topics. For some reason, I put them away. I don't know why. I'm going to take my other glove off. You can feel free to if you want yourself. Yes, thank you for joining us. This is episode 5 of 3NN. We got a lot of things to touch on today. Brian's got a top 10 list for us, the top 10 holidays you may not have heard of. It should be pretty freaktastic interesting, I'll tell you what. So sit back, relax, put on your seatbelts, and get ready for a wild ride, I guess. So
it's gonna be a fun day.
Yeah, what do you said you were locked and loaded and ready to go today. So let me know what you got. What are you working with here, Bri?
We have a couple different things.
Okay.
Well, I might as well start with this past Friday was Halloween.
Oh yes, it was Halloween. I did not celebrate the devil,
All
Dios
Saints
de
Day,
los Muertos or whatever.
All Hallows Eve.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the devil's holiday.
The first day of All Hallowtide, which is the time of the year dedicated to remembering the dead. Wonderful time, really. Okay. It's believed to be derived from the Celtic harvest festivals, particularly Samhain, of course.
The Celtic? Now, is this related to anything pagan? I know when I hear about a lot of holidays, you hear that's a pagan holiday. Well, it's actually very true. If you look into it, it's some crazy stuff, really, when you think about pagan holidays. But continue, I apologize.
Well, Samhain actually marked the end of the harvest season and began what was known as the dark part of the year, if you will.
Okay.
So you could go a few directions with that if you chose.
And what's his name? What was his name? Sam what?
Samhain. It was the holiday.
Okay. All right, cool.
It wasn't a person.
You got to talk.
It was also a Glenn Danzig album back in the 90s, I think. No, a band.
Danzig.
The Danzig band. It's Danzig's band after the Misfits.
Oh, Danzig sucks. Apparently, from what I heard, Danzig sucks. I could be wrong.
Well, anyway, back in the day, we'll say, way long ago in a land on far, far away.
Uh-huh. Are we still on Halloween?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, we're on something in between Samhain and Halloween.
Oh, okay. All right. So Halloween has yet to be formed. What
All Hallows Eve. All Saints Day.
Is that what the name of the holiday was at that time? And what period of time are we at? Are we in the 1800s here?
Right now we are...
Back in 1864.
No, right now we are pre-16th century.
Okay.
And I believe it was still called Samhain at that point.
So Samhain.
But the name Halloween translates to All Hallows Eve.
Okay.
So it's beginning of Hallowtide, which is Yeah, the time of the year dedicated to remembering the dead.
Okay, where does Dios de los Muertos tie into any of this? The Spanish Day of the Dead, does that tie into anything you got here or no?
That may.
Am I jumping the gun on you? If I am, I
I
apologize.
didn't actually delve into that, honestly, but
Okay.
it may derive from these same sources.
Okay, cool.
Like, for example, back in those days, the people left offerings of food, drink, or portions of their crops to the spirits in hopes that that would entice them to protect the people and the cattle throughout the winter, keep them alive, all that good stuff.
Yeah, pagan type of thing.
They also believed at the time the souls of the dead would visit their home, and they actually set places for them at the dinner table and at the fireplace, things like that.
Okay, sounds right.
So they took it pretty seriously back then.
Okay.
And then Gaelic and Welsh families had
Gaelic?
Gaelic.
Gaelic? The guy's name was Gaelic?
No, there's nobody named Gaelic.
You said Gaelic and Welsh families.
Yes.
So their last names were Gaelic.
People of Gaelic descent.
What's that mean?
Like, over like Ireland and Scotland and stuff.
Oh, like Gaelic
Yes.
or something? Okay, alright, continue, my bad. Alright.
I think you might have got some Ebola. Something ain't right with you.
No, I'm fine.
Got
Continue.
contaminated suits?
Tell me about this Halloween.
Well, anyway, they conducted divination rituals intended to divine one's future regarding death and marriage.
Who did?
The families back then.
Oh, wow, that's
Kind of
good.
interesting, huh?
In the United States as well?
No, at that time there was no United States.
Okay, it was back in Europe and stuff. Okay.
And they also lit a lot of bonfires because they believed the smoke and ashes had protective and cleansing powers.
Cool.
Which explains a lot because, I don't know, I light a lot of bonfires. It's kind of relaxing.
Yeah, fire is something to the human psyche.
Now we fast forward to the 16th century.
Okay.
Where people started, somehow over that time, people began going house to house in costumes, dressed as the spirits. And they were reciting songs and verses in exchange for food, which is, I guess, where we get our trick-or-treating from.
Okay. Not
Then,
so evil. Maybe
in Scotland, the youths went house to house in masks threatening mischief if they weren't welcomed.
Interesting.
I guess that's the trick portion of the trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
18th century Ireland.
Now, do you think that it could also be maybe the origins of Mischief Night?
It could be.
Okay, cool.
It could be. I could see that. I could definitely see that.
Okay.
18th century Ireland, the imitating of malignant spirits led to the playing of pranks, and costumes and pranks spread to England in the early 20th century.
Wow. Okay.
And then,
see where it started.
but it was back in the 19th century that a massive influx of Irish and Scottish immigrants brought the tradition to North America. And over time, it spread throughout the United States and became what we now know as Halloween.
Wow, that's crazy. Interesting. A lot of stuff I didn't know about Halloween. That's definitely like a little school lesson on Halloween. I'm pretty impressed. Thank you, bro. Now, did you dress up as anything for Halloween?
I did.
Oh, you did? I did not. What did you dress up as?
Barry Soetoro, King of America.
All right. For anybody who doesn't know who Barry Soetoro is, that's our fearless leader, Barack Obama. All right.
That would be his real name, we believe.
Yeah. Well, he's got a few real names.
It was an interesting costume. I had the
Antichrist.
I had the Barack Obama mask with a royal crown that resembled the Burger King crown, tilted sideways, gangsta style.
Nice.
Barry O, King of America.
Nice. All right, cool. Yeah, well, I'd like to say, some people would like to say he's probably I guess nobody would say he's the biggest drug dealer in America, but in all reality, he's the biggest mobster in America. If you look at the government as being the modern day mob, then can't be touched and corruption has overtaken it. Well, I don't know, because the corruption didn't overtake the mob, honestly, did it? Yeah, the mob overtook
the mob was
many
already
things with
corrupt.
corruption. Yeah, I don't know. So maybe the mob has infiltrated fully the government, and the government is no longer distinguishable from the mob. Therefore, the highest member of the open mob that we see, aka the government, the highest member of that, or the highest person in that, who would be the boss or would be the president, Barry Obama. Splat out. There you go. You
Or
got your
Saturo.
mobster. You got your head mobster. You got your new Al Capone, but this Al Capone ain't never going to get locked up. He's just going to get replaced in 4 years with another Al Capone that got quite a system they got going there.
Well, it's a pretty corrupt system. And
It is
here's
a corrupt
actually, I'll give you something else on that
What?
I just happened to notice.
Is this Halloween or not?
No, this is more the corruption.
Okay.
Here you go. Back in August, a SWAT team raided a house in Miami owned by a man named Bobby McClendon. Right. It was a supposed drug raid. They had a warrant, but the warrant was for 3744 Williams Avenue in Miami.
Okay.
Bobby McClendon's house that got raided was 3844 Thomas Avenue in Miami.
So they raided the wrong house.
Yes, and they didn't care. They were belligerent and aggressive
Yeah.
from the get-go.
I believe it.
They were told that they had the wrong place. Now, here's where it got crazy. This is what stood out to me. They ordered everyone around, like how the SWAT team would do. They said the kids weren't complying fast enough. The 13-year-old got bludgeoned in the head with the buttstock of a rifle, and the 12-year-old got woken up and punched in the left eye for not complying fast enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that leaves something to be said about the police state in America
Well,
and the militarization
One
of
more,
the police.
one more comment on that. The police contest that it was the right house because they found like less than a nickel bag of marijuana and a legally registered rifle.
Yeah, well, that's what.
Oh,
they'll
it's the
always
right house. We got a gun and drugs.
That's what they'll always do, and that's the militarization of police. And they get these tanks, they get these giant, they get all this weaponry for their SWAT team, and they do all this training with this weaponry, and they're like, well, we want to be able to use it, and any chance that they can get to use it, regardless of whether that chance is warranted or not. I don't mean whether they have a warrant to do it or not. I mean whether it's actually justified.
They violently
They'll
assaulted
still-
two
they
kids
wanna
and then
use
trashed the
their-
house.
Their tanks and stuff.
They violently assaulted two kids
Well,
and then trashed the house, and they're the ones who had the wrong
But the
address.
thing is, you're acting like that's. I'm not saying you're acting like that, but you're coming across as that's a very abnormal thing. Yes, that's not right whatsoever, but it's not abnormal.
It's not so
That's
abnormal,
something
but not
that
too many
happens.
people realize that.
No,
it happens,
nobody
and
realizes
I
that
think
that's
people
going
need to
on.
be
Well, I
made
don't say
aware
that.
of that.
A lot of
Hey,
people
yeah, this is what
realize.
this happens. These
Well,
things
if
happen.
you get a chance, if anybody out there gets a chance, check out copblock.org. They have a lot of information about police brutality, and not information, a lot of videos actually about police brutality and police misconduct. And it's definitely a good site to go check out, and for people to really understand how the police are not as innocent as they seem out there. I actually just came across something the other day that said there's the two little snippets of information. In America, you are 8 times more likely to be killed by a police officer than a terrorist. All right, and then I can't remember what the other snippet of information was. It was
Well, I
something
do
about-
know a few pretty
Oh
good
yeah,
cops.
there's no national database for the citizens that keeps a count or even a log of the citizens that are killed. No federal or national database that keeps a log of the citizens that are killed by the police every year. So it's kind of, but there's definitely a log for every police officer that's killed in action, but there's no log for the police officers that kill people. And one thing I definitely want to touch on before we continue to, I hate to say bash the police, but there is.
I know a
definitely-
lot of very good police
Well, that's what I'm
officers.
saying,
My
exactly.
grandfather was a
There's
police
definitely,
officer.
we have, the police state is definitely prevalent in the United States, and the militarization of police is definitely prevalent in the United States. Back in, I believe, 1989 it was. It might have been right before that, because Bush was president in 89, wasn't he? So maybe it was 87.
Bush Sr.
I think it was 86. Reagan was still president in 86, wasn't he?
He should have been.
It was
yes.
Gerald Ford. I don't know.
I-
Well, basically,
off the top of my
there
head-
was a not an executive order. There was an act that passed that basically said all of the military surplus that was built up for the Gulf War was now allowed to be distributed, not sold, distributed to police stations around the country. That
I was
may
aware
need
of this.
And since then, the militarization of police has become a major thing. Problem with that is, once you put the average police officer, you give him an AK-47, maybe not an AK-47, but you give him an AR-15 in his hand, and You deck him out like a SWAT team officer. You deck him out like a military.
He's gonna feel like he's military and act like he's military.
He's got to do something.
Yep.
He's gonna play the role. You know what I'm saying? When you have him dressed up as a regular police officer, he feels like he's there to protect the peace. But the one thing we need to definitely touch on, and that you were starting to touch on, is there's something out there called, and they've always been around, and for a long time, I believe for a long time, most police officers out there were an oath keeper. Most police officers,
Yes.
for a long time, you weren't called an oath keeper, you were called a police officer who does his job and isn't corrupt.
Well, it's also,
You know
it's
what I'm
not
saying?
just police, it's police and military. Anyone who took an oath to uphold the Constitution can
Yeah.
join Oath Keepers. Oathkeepers.org is their
Well,
website.
that is, I didn't honestly know that, but I'm sure that's true. But what I know about oath keepers and what I ask almost every police officer I ever come into contact with is, are you an oath keeper? Because when it comes to police officers, when it comes to military, okay, I understand, but military, you're also working for a completely corrupt organization. When you know about the military-industrial complex, you know about the shellings and bombings and the killing of innocent civilians worldwide because of our military.
Including here at home.
Taking an oath, yes, including here at home, but taking an oath to protect and not protect and serve. Taking an oath to defend a constitutional oath, but you're defending our military, and in that oath, you're agreeing that you will be who you're supposed to be. You will be the soldier that you're supposed to be, and if you're given an order by a superior, yes, you're supposed to always look like it, but they don't compare the two. When you take that oath, you're not saying, well, when you're given an order, you're not being told. When you're given an order by a superior, you need to always look and think, does that conflict with the Constitution? There's one part that says, I take an oath to protect the Constitution, but then there's a whole other part that says, I take an oath that I will respect my seniors, and I will do what I am told, and I will follow the orders. Exactly. So when you take that oath, you're taking the oath that you will follow the orders, even if it means to kill civilians or kill innocent civilians.
You're taking the oath even if it means to kill civilians. Hey, guess what? Here, I know a bunch of people that took that oath to uphold the, everything and blah 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 blah, and they were just following orders too, and they were executed at the Nuremberg trials.
Exactly. A lot of people don't really understand that what Hitler did was legal in every aspect of German law. What Hitler did was legal, and of course he changed the law to make sure some of the atrocities that he did were legal, but everything that he did was legal. And anybody who looked at the law as black and white, well, if there's a law passed, then there's a just reason behind it being passed, and we have to follow that law and yada yada. Those people, I can guarantee you, felt really dumb when the war was over. And the sad part is the direction that our country is going. It's kind of like the same thing where we're killing so many innocent civilians around the world, but I think a lot of people are going to, I don't want to say die off, but a lot of people are going to die before they even get reality even hits them in the face, and they get to feel stupid, like, oh my God, we were killing innocent people all around the world. You know what I'm saying? But what I was saying about oath keepers when it comes to police is you take an oath to protect and serve the citizens. So you take an oath to protect and serve the citizens, to uphold the Constitution. You know what I'm saying? Like, you take that oath, and I take it much more serious because I don't want to say I take it much more serious than oath keepers when it comes to military oath keepers. But I look at it in a different light when it comes to police officers, because you're not necessarily inherently working for a corrupt organization. You know what I'm saying? The police are not inherently corrupt. Yes, the CIA may be somewhat corrupt. The FBI may be somewhat corrupt. There may be organizations, Homeland Security may be somewhat corrupt. There may be organizations that are somewhat corrupt. There may be whole police precincts and districts that are completely and totally overrun and corrupt. But there are still police precincts and districts out there where they're run by genuinely good people who are genuinely trying to do good for the country or for their constituents or their citizens.
I know some good
like
cops
Sheriff
in
Joe
this
Arpaio.
state, in this town. I know kids I went to school with that are cops. My grandfather was a cop.
Yep. But that's why I take the oath keeper thing so much more seriously when it comes to cops, because if you say that you're an oath keeper and you're a cop, that means that you are adamantly against being a corrupt cop and abusing your power. You're adamantly against that. So when you say you're an oath keeper, you're against that. When you have no idea what an oath keeper is and you don't care what an oath keeper is, it's obvious that you don't care if you abuse your authority. You agree with the fact that you may just be a policy enforcer. whereas an oath keeper doesn't look at themselves as a policy enforcer, even though they know they have to enforce certain policies and codes and laws. They don't look at themselves as a policy enforcer, they look at themselves as a protector of the peace. And that's the type of people we want in this country. We want, and then it's really sad because 50 years ago, I guarantee you 90% of the police out there, maybe even more, were oath keepers and didn't even know. They just kept their oath because an oath meant something then. It's almost like we've lost our moral compass to the point where an oath doesn't even
Well, what did we say last week about how easy it is to lie?
Yep, how many people lie in court? You know what I'm saying? How many politicians lie, and it's like it's glossed over. Come election time, that's the funniest part. That's what blows my mind. How can this country, you can sit here and say we're a civilized, intelligent country, and we can let our elected leaders lie, and then when it comes time for them to be reelected, we can either completely gloss over those lies and forget about those lies, or we let somebody give us a completely asinine explanation for those lies, or a completely asinine excuse for those lies, and you end up favoring that or looking at that person or that politician in a favorable light. And it's like, are we really at that point? Like, we have 300 million citizens in this country. We probably have at least 1% of that who are politically active citizens in this country and who would have good intentions if they ever ran for office. Are you really telling me that out of that 1%, we have to choose the same people over and over again who choose to lie to us and choose to work not on our behalf, against our behalf? It really seems like that a lot of politicians out there latch on to key subjects and other things they can lie, and nobody cares about, like other things like their foreign policy or how they stand on foreign policy or national security or anything like that, or what the NSA does, spying on American citizens. It's funny to see some politicians acting like they care right now, because in all reality they don't really care. They're still being funded by companies that are supporting all of this. You know, their foreign policy, they may say, well, we got to do something about our foreign policy, we can't get into a third Iraq war, but you're not really hearing that, because that's not what the American public wants to hear. If the American public starts to turn against the war in Iraq now, the new war in Iraq, if we start to turn against it, you'll hear politicians coming out saying, you know what, this is enough. It's enough with this. We used to have Ron Paul who would just give us the truth regardless. Now, even with his son out there, his son's not giving us the truth regardless. I don't even know if Dennis Kucinich is still in things, because he kind of gave us the truth regardless. We don't have an actual bipartisan third party or NPA, non-party affiliate type of person giving us the actual truth of what's going on. So we don't really know what is, not what's going on, but like politically where things really are, instead of just feeding us the rhetoric of what polls say we care about, what the American public cares about. And like foreign policy, it's like, don't even really worry about that. Sweep that under the rug. Yeah. It's funny how we're, 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago, we were so ecstatic to get out of Iraq. Ecstatic, so happy that no more American soldiers had to lose their lives to a losing war, to a losing battle in Iraq. And we were happy that Iraq was able to take care of themselves, or at least we're leaving it to them to take care of it yourself. It's your country, you know what I'm saying? Like, we shouldn't be over there wasting American lives on what? On a winless war? No. Now all of a sudden we're turned back around because of ISIS and the threat of ISIS and the Islamic State. All of a sudden there's a huge problem and we have to get back over there. And all of a sudden we're back over there and everybody supports it. But it's gonna turn right back around, because everybody's gonna realize there's no chance at winning this. We're just losing American lives.
Well, they need that. You said earlier, the military-industrial complex. What is America's main export? Weapons. And weapon manufacturers make the most money for our economy. Therefore, you need to be in a constant state of war, as we have since World War I. By the way, look it up.
Well, if anybody gets a chance, exactly what Brian's talking about right here, and it gives you an idea.
Look at this.
It's never changed.
Here's the short version.
This is very important.
Al-Qaeda's gone. Now you have ISIS.
This is very important. War is a Racket by General Major Smedley.
Yes.
If you get a chance to check out that book, it's about 12 or 15 pages long, but it will change the way you look at war from that day forward. From the day you read that book forward, you'll look at war as, oh my God, we're all being bamboozled, so that these companies that make missiles and grenades and firearms, so all these companies can make a lot of money. And all these companies are feeding money into the back pockets of politicians to make sure that these wars continue on, so that they can make a lot of money. And the funny part is, 99% of these companies make sure their weapons get distributed evenly to each side, so that the war can continue on evenly as long as possible. It's an even fight for as long as possible.
Or if the economy needs some extra balancing on one side, they can give the better weapons and armor to this side, decide they want to win, whoever's going to make them the most money, with no real political concern whatsoever for the outcome.
Do you know who the first corporate entity to start weapons manufacturing or start in the weapons manufacturing industry was? The first major company to start it, and they became a conglomerate doing it?
I'm going to go with Lockheed Martin. Tyvek?
Tyvek is not a company. Tyvek is a product
DuPont.
from DuPont. DuPont started with gunpowder. So it really tells you something when you think about the major companies out there and what their focus is. It's almost like you can start with weapons, make a lot of money, and then you're a major player in the world business-wise. You know what I'm saying? That's what a lot of these companies
And you're set for life. Your kids are set for life.
They've got it figured out.
Set for life.
It really is the saddest thing I hear whenever you look into this. The saddest thing I hear more than anything when it comes to war and perpetual war that we're in is that all of America's ails, Social Security, homelessness, hunger, poverty, all of our ails, the financial crisis, our debt, not all of our debt, but a nice chunk of our debt. We could handle all of it if we even lowered the military industrial complex's budget, or the military budget, 90%. If we lowered
it's
it
like
90%, and everybody says that's insane.
93% of our
exactly.
Our budget annually goes to the military.
Yep.
How does that make any sense?
That makes
you
no
have
sense.
Agriculture, transportation,
Makes no sense.
what's everything? Education. What are all the other departments? The Interior. No, military gets 93% of everything, and the rest gets divvied up amongst everything else.
Yep. And the saddest part is we have this big government mantra, this big government idea that came about probably over 100 years ago that really came into force and really started to be implemented, where we had all of these departments of energy, Department of Education, Department of this, Department of that, FDA, USDA. You have all of these different organizations, and I understand the need for some regulation. I do understand that, but I think we got very out of control with it to the point where, and if you look into what Rockefeller has,
it's like everything
really
has
tried
an
to,
organization for it now.
well, yeah, but
anything.
if you look at what Rockefeller, how much he was involved in all this stuff, and then you really look into like what Rockefeller's kind of philosophy has been his entire life.
His quotes, read his memoirs.
And the Rockefeller family. I'm sorry, not David Rockefeller. I'm talking about the Rockefeller family and what
the family as a whole.
Kind of what their mission has been over the past 200 years or so is to compartmentalize every aspect of daily life, at least in America. Try and get it to spread it as democracy around the world. But to compartmentalize every aspect of daily life in America so that anybody who's trying to do anything novel or genuine, it's kind of stifled. That's left to it's almost an
it's
innovation.
to the point where they make it seem like if you're trying to be nice and genuine, you're the one in the wrong. No, you're supposed to be a piece of garbage like everyone else. Treat people like crap. That's what we want.
Well,
that's nice. Being bad is being nice, and being nice is being
yeah. Well, what does it
butchered.
mean here? What does it mean when you see that? I don't know what the percentages are, but such a high percentage of Americans are on some form of government assistance. And if you were to try and talk to even, at least I'd have to say 75% of people who aren't on government assistance, and try and talk to them about why they're not, well, let's just put it this way. 75% of people who aren't on government assistance still can't understand why government assistance is kind of a bad thing. You know, government assistance can be a bad thing. It's either, the problem is we say Obama is a socialist.
Some people do need it. It's the ones who don't that are draining the system. But the real sad part with it is the fact that minimum wage in this country doesn't bring you to a high enough salary where you don't need it.
Well, maybe I think that's a very good idea of something maybe to touch on next week a little bit more is minimum wage, and do we need a minimum wage? And if so, if we definitely need a minimum wage, then what should the minimum wage be? The minimum wage right now should be
relatable to the cost of living at the time.
Yeah, right now minimum wage should be $23 an hour, which is mind-blowing because there's people out there living off of $7 an hour, $7.50 an hour, or maybe I think it's $8.25 now.
$8.25,
I think it is $8.25, but there's people living out there living off of that. I'm not saying I'm making any outrageous amount more than that, but it's still it blows your mind to think that with the rate of inflation and also the rate of profits that companies have made, if you equal that out into the proper wages for employees to be making, when you add all that up, it should be $23 an hour that employees are making. And it's mind-boggling to think that anybody's making $8.25 an hour, especially when you work for a company like McDonald's or something that's making hand over fist. It's one of the richest companies in the world. How are you like one of the richest companies in the world? Your profits are soaring, and you can't even set a standard at your restaurant. Aldi is
look at the
a
big
great example. Aldi
Walmart a few years back made national news for their wages.
Walmart just made news that because they basically, I think they got sued by some employees saying that, I don't know if they got sued, but somehow it came up that Walmart has been making outrageous profits in the past few years, and how come they've been lowering the wages of their employees and lowering the working conditions of their employees. And they said, well, they're going to continue to do it because that's what's helped them become so profitable in the past few years. And it's like, that corporate mentality is
because
up.
It's those people that you're screwing that are in those stores that are making you that profit.
You know what? One thing I think would be a good idea for people to look at and for us to all understand is that corporations are legally in this country, and you think, well, that's a very bad thing, but we could use it to our advantage, and there's a lot of these laws and a lot of these things that are messed up that we could actually use to our advantage and use to actually change things back to the way they should be. Corporations in this country are legally a person. They are legally they have a legal personhood, so they can be looked at as a person. So if we all as a general population started looking at corporations as a person, and we look at Walmart and what Walmart does and the messed up things it does to its employees, and just look at Walmart, the company, as almost an owner of a company, well, I think if we looked at it as being a human being, well, where's your heart, man? Where's your soul? So we tend to look at these companies as being, well, it's just a company, it's a shell organization, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, there's people behind it, but it's really the shell that's trying to make money for itself, to make the shell stronger, make the shell harder so that it'll never crack or whatever. And it's like, the law doesn't say that. The law doesn't say that it's an empty shell organization or a shell. The law says that it's a person. So if we looked at it how the law says, then when they commit atrocities, when they're paying workers in other countries 12 cents an hour, 27 cents an hour or something in a slave shop or a what do they call them?
Sweatshop.
A sweatshop, exactly. When they pay a company, when they are paying employees like that, it's, if we looked at them as like a human being, we'd be like, we're disgusted with you. We're gonna boycott you.
Cameras.
We're not gonna work with you.
Well, we're down to one camera now.
Oh, we are down to one camera. All right, we wrap it up as a short show. We'll wrap it up in about 10 minutes or so. So we're not just one camera event here. If you want, Bri, you can feel free to slide on over here and
that requires
get on camera.
sliding.
It's up to you. I'm gonna smoke a cigarette off camera here. There's a couple things I wanted to touch on real quick, and then we're gonna wrap up with your with your event. Your event. With your top 10 list.
Holidays.
Yeah, your top 10 holidays people might not even know about. Oh, now I'm on my suit. I'm gonna get Ebola. How we doing here? Hey, there he is. He's in the chat, folks. All right, cool. So, there's a couple things I just want to touch on real quick. A couple things I came across this week, and I found them quite interesting. So, I just wanted to touch on them real quick. Just wanted to touch on them real quick. And, I thought they were kind of interesting and needed to be touched on. So, hold on. Alright. There's this con man in Europe who stole £40,000, which I don't know, I think that's equivalent to like $72,000 or $73,000 in American money. I thought it said it on here. I guess not. No, he stole 41,570 pounds, which I think was like $72,000 or some shit like that, right? But basically, the guy stole the money, was starting to get busted for it, or realized that he was being investigated for it, and went into a fake coma and pretended he was a quadriplegic. He claimed he was a quadriplegic, and that's why he was getting investigated for taking all of this money or funneling all this money, because he wasn't really a quadriplegic. And then when he realized he was getting caught, he went into a fake coma for like a month or something until they I don't think they snapped him out. I think they just arrested him and threw him in a jail cell, and he woke up, or he stopped acting like he was in a coma, like, oh crap, I'm busted. So I thought that was pretty funny. There's a dude, and this is hence part of the reason why we're wearing our Ebola hazmat suits today, because there's a dude arrested in New Jersey. This dude's name is Hammer. All right, it had his whole
Is that
name.
his real name?
No. Barnabas Davis, right, from Trenton, was it? Tom's River. He's in
I was
Tom's
born
River,
in Tom's
right?
River.
Nice, look at this.
Yeah.
A local guy to this guy.
That's right outside Seaside Heights.
Barnabas Davis, or Hammer as the locals know him, was busted with a whole lot of heroin on him. And basically, the heroin, I believe, was it labeled? Yeah, no, I don't think it was labeled. But he was telling people he had that Ebola heroin. That's what's pretty funny, is he got busted because he was telling people he had that Ebola heroin, and it drew unwanted attention to him, and he ended up getting caught for selling Ebola heroin. But it's kind of funny, because it's like knowing that that's how you can really know if we have a evil government, because would they really, or could they really release that on us, or would they really, is knowing that the CIA runs most of the drug game in this country. Could they sneak Ebola into a certain drug, like a cocaine or something, and literally just, well, they wouldn't put it in cocaine because way too many politicians do cocaine, but put it in like heroin or something like that. Well, way too many politicians probably do heroin too. So I don't know. That's probably their hesitation for putting it in a drug and literally infecting.
Well, they could probably get their own, clean supply.
Yeah, but I don't know. You don't. There's a lot of politicians who don't even know that the CIA is really the one supplying
the cocaine
the top
importation
of the cocaine pyramid for them. All right. What do you call it? I didn't read the story, but I'm just going to ask the question, and maybe we'll look into it and get into it a little bit more next week. For a couple minutes. Why is the Pentagon stuffing caves in Norway full of tanks? So basically, a Marine Expeditionary Brigade needs to get up and running, and that's the reason they're saying it. But there's a whole lot of military equipment being stored in Norway. So if you know what's near Norway, I don't really know what's near Norway.
I believe
maybe Russia.
Ukraine is near
Ukraine,
Norway.
Russia, maybe. So,
Ukraine-Russia border has
and
been
we're
an
in
interesting spot.
We're in a new Cold War mentality where Russia is apparently the enemy. And is that because of Russia Today? Maybe, I don't know. Russia Today has kind of grown in popularity. There's a lot of people on there now. You'll see Jesse Ventura on there a lot. He's doesn't have his own show.
Larry King has a show.
Larry King now has a show on there. It's gaining relevance. What's his name? Ben Swan he's a newscaster on there now. That blows my mind, because I'm a huge fan of Ben Swan. When you know the Ben Swan story, that he left his job at a Fox station because they were trying to stifle him from putting out his truth news reports, or what's actually going on news reports. Like, they didn't want that, but he put out probably like 50 or 60 of them at least before they got rid of him. But they didn't get rid of him. He left to try and do his own thing, and now he's on RT. It's pretty cool. Ben Swan is the man, I'll tell you what. What do you call it? The oldest DNA ever found sheds light on humans' global trek. Apparently they found some DNA that was like from 200,000 years ago. Pretty insane. I thought this was pretty hilarious. I haven't really read the story, but I completely 100%, 110% believe it. If you understand that during the last elections, Mitt Romney had about 100 people come to his rallies. Ron Paul had about 100,000 people come to his rallies, and Obama had maybe close to 50, 60,000, maybe even close to 100,000 sometimes at his rallies. But you also got to understand there's a lot of Democrats out there who are pushing for their president to get back in there. There's a lot of people who really, he tugs on their heartstrings, and there's a reason why Obama got so many people to come out. Plus, there's a lot of paid people. You're paid to come on out there. It's a free trip, free ticket. Your ticket's paid for, so why don't you come out and support your guy? But basically, Obama made a rare campaign trail appearance for somebody, for a Democratic candidate for governor in Maryland. and people just left early. People were not interested and were kind of.
People didn't want to see the president.
But the people didn't want to see the president. But it's telling you that, and it's funny to watch the media, the mainstream media, really start pushing this. Is how Democrats don't even like Obama anymore, and it's like.
So just impeach him and be done with it. How many crimes has he committed against this country?
They're not going to impeach him. They're just going to be happy to have a new presidential candidate for 2016. It's really sad. Get perfectly golden Brussels sprouts every time. Brussels sprouts are good for you. I'm hungry now. Boyfriend leads police to pregnant Ohio woman's remains. I think the only reason that I printed this out is because I just wanted to show people that this is not me. Okay? Look at me. Okay? And now look at this guy.
I don't know. That's pretty close.
It's not me. I promise.
That is pretty.
I promise
damn
it's not me.
close.
I promise you it's not me.
It's very, very, very sketchy there.
I think
I
that
don't
might
know,
be all I
man.
have. I'm only going to touch on this really quick, but it's definitely worth mentioning. There's a town in New Jersey called Delran, and the mayor of that town basically works for a political action committee that funded him during his campaign. So, and he doesn't see a conflict of interest of the fact that while he's the mayor for the town, he works for the political action committee that funded his campaign. So I feel there's some sort of conflict of interest. Maybe there really isn't, but I don't know. Yeah, maybe there should be a law against that, just to make sure that there's no kind of tomfoolery going on. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to mention that. That was the kind of the things I.
You would have to be the most 100% perfectly honest person on the planet to not have some kind of conflict of interest in that situation.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. He says he's just making phone calls for him, but I find it pretty interesting. Let me squeeze by real quick here, pal. Sorry.
And
yeah, you got your top 10 list?
Okay then. Let's get into the top 10 holidays you've probably never heard of.
They probably never hear you right now because I'm all right. Go ahead.
Top 10 holidays you've probably never heard of.
Okay.
January 31st is known as Bubble Wrap Appreciation Day.
Okay. Cool.
Was invented by an Indiana radio station in 2001.
Bubble Wrap Appreciation Day?
Bubble Wrap Appreciation Day.
I wish you would have told me that. I could have gotten us some bubble wrap. We could have sat here and popped
January 31st. We have time. January 31st.
January 31st. Get ready for the bubble wrap
We're
special.
going to do the bubble wrap special.
We're going to bubble wrap the
January.
whole studio. It's going to be fun.
February. The month of February is Return Shopping Carts to Their Supermarkets month.
Return shopping carts to their super. You know what? Having lived in a city, I fully agree with that month holiday. It's a month-long holiday.
There's the entire month of February.
I will tell you what. There's a lot of shopping carts out there.
There is.
That need to be returned to.
They need to go home.
The saddest part is a lot of them are going to go home and they'll have been replaced. True. You know, it's like the kid who goes off to college and all of a sudden comes home and wants to surprise his family, and they got a surprise for him. They adopted a kid. They gave that kid his room. His room's in the basement.
That's
now.
a little
All this stuff packed in
extreme.
boxes.
That's a little extreme for just the kid going away to college.
Yeah, well, I'm saying that's kind of what it's like. Sucks. What else you got?
On a happier note, March 23rd is National Puppy Day.
Hey!
Celebration of all things to do with puppies.
Hey, I love puppies. They're so cute. It's sad when you see a small puppy and it's so cute and you gotta pet it and you just love it. And all of a sudden, like 6 months later, things like on your lap and it's like, oh, you're still so cute. But then like 2 years later, the thing's like gigantic, scratching you, like digging into your neck and stuff, you know what I'm saying? The thing's just knocking over stuff with its tail on the coffee table. You're afraid it's going to burn the house down because you like to light a candle every now and then. It's like, that's where it's like, if you want to get a puppy, think about what kind of grown dog you're going to have. All right? If you want a puppy, that's all well and great. But if you want a puppy, but then you're not ready to handle the giant German Shepherd you just really decided to get, then maybe you should look into getting a little wiener dog or something, because that puppy's going to be cute, and it's going to be even small and cute 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years down the line. So, sorry. Go ahead.
April 22nd is National Jelly Bean Day.
National Jelly Bean Day? I'll tell you what, I hate
you can't
jelly beans, dude.
What?
Hate jelly beans. It's the weirdest tasting thing. I don't understand people's fascination with jelly beans. I hate Easter jelly beans. I hate the flavored jelly beans, the popcorn jelly beans. I hate, like, you know what? I've had jelly beans sometimes. The only jelly beans I like are Mike and Ike's. And that's not even jelly beans, but that's the closest thing to jelly beans I like. And you know, I don't even like the white ones, whatever they are, Mike's or Ike's. I think they might be Ike's. I don't know. I like the purple ones, and that's about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'll give you that.
I'm on it.
Well,
Yeah.
In that case, we'll go a different route.
What's your favorite jelly bean?
I like the white ones.
What's their flavor?
I don't know if it has a name. It's something close to coconut, I think.
Oh,
Or
my
pineapple
God.
or something weird like that.
Oh.
Some sweet
Oh,
cross
coconut.
between.
Anything coconut flavored. Coconut itself is disgusting. Like a coconut,
for
the
you.
water, coconut water, it still has that coconut taste, but it's so good for you. Oh
It
my
is
God,
good
I
for
love
you.
coconut water, but anything else coconut.
And
good.
the Association for Dressings and Sauces decided that May is National Salad Month.
Be interesting if a lot more people paid attention to that in this country. I'll tell you
Yeah,
what.
it would be.
A lot more people had that one marked on their calendar. I think we'd be a little more well off. You ever think that sometimes how they say ocean levels are going to rise in the next 20 years? What if it's not that ocean levels are going to rise in the next 20 years because of global warming, but it's because the country is on such a fat slide of so many people getting fat that we're literally going to weigh down. We're going to have 300 million out of 300 million people, 150 million of them are going to be obese, and they're going to weigh down our continent, and sea levels are going to rise. That's what would happen if our continent got weighed down. Sea levels are going to rise. You know what I'm saying? That's why it's such a big deal in this country more than other countries. Other countries are like, yeah, we got to take care of the planet. That's obvious. But in this country, it's like, no, sea levels are going to rise. We're going to lose our coastal cities. New York City's going to be flooded.
Well, if
it's
they
like,
stop
well, maybe if
building-
they just got on a
Here's an
diet,
idea.
if the country got on a diet, we'd be all right.
Here's
Not a
another
diet,
idea.
but
If
eat
they
healthy.
stop all the
Have a
underground
salad.
cities and all the fracking and all the drilling and all the crap that they're doing underneath the
Hey,
United
yeah, that could
States,
do. Well,
that
maybe
could-
it's the combination of the two. You know what I'm saying? Or we're turning our soil into an eggshell, and all we're doing is adding more weight onto the top of the eggshell, hoping that it won't crack and it won't
Exactly.
break. And when it cracks and breaks, well, of course the sea level's gonna rise a little bit. I'm probably wrong, but I don't know. Go ahead, continue.
I don't know. 1999, the group called Pet Sitters International decided that June 24th should be Take Your Dog to Work Day.
That's I really like the idea of that holiday, other than food service employees. I don't want no food service employees bringing their nasty ass, hairy ass dog to work with them and getting the 3 times as thick as regular human hair. It's like, it's worse than pubic hair, getting a dog hair in your food. It really is. It's worse than pubic hair. It might not disgust you as much. Well, no, it disgusts you just about as much, but it's worse if you accidentally get it in your mouth, because the thing, one, it's got like oily, greasy nastiness, because that's just what a dog's fucking, pardon my language, what a dog's fur has all worked into it. Once you get that in your mouth, and the grittiness and the thickness of a dog hair makes you want to like literally just scrape your mouth out with razor blades. It's disgusting. So yeah, I really like the idea of bringing your dog to work day. I love when you go into like a mechanic shop or something like that, and they got the dog sitting on the floor and you can pet him.
Yeah, that's a good.
Oh, it's an awesome thing. But food service, I think that should be the new holiday, June 24th, you said?
Yep.
Should be everybody but food service employees bring your dog to work day. Because that's, I think maybe we'll do that for June 24th. We'll celebrate that and see if we can get somebody to bring their dog to work here.
Well, here's one everybody can enjoy. August 19th, National Men's Grooming Day.
Hey.
It was created in 2007 by a hair product company.
It's funny that I'm sitting here acting like I care about that.
Yeah, I know. It was random. I never heard of it.
I really
That's
don't.
what it is.
I'm trying. Hey, I'm
Holidays
trying.
you never heard of. I never heard of that.
I never heard of that one either. Yeah, I don't really
October.
care.
Well, no, hold on. I skipped September. My bad.
If you're gonna
September
say
19th is.
pink.
Hmm?
Go ahead.
No, September 19th is International Talk Like a Pirate Day.
I hate that. I hate anybody who talks like a pirate. Pirate Steve from Dodgeball, the pirate episode of whatever on, what do you call it, on Bar Rescue. and all these pirate stuff that gets on my nerves. I'm so happy the Islands of the Caribbean movies are over. It drove me insane when they were popular and people were talking about, the only thing I like about those movies and anything that has to do anything with pirates is I like the pirate ride at Disney World, and I like the what do you call it? I like the, what do you call it, the Lonely Island song, Jack Sparrow with Michael Bolton. Other than that, get out of here. I don't like it at all.
Okay, fair enough. October is Raptor Month.
Another one.
And no,
what's up with our fascination with dinosaurs?
We're not talking about a velociraptor. I got excited too when I first read it, but no, this is a month dedicated to the awareness of birds of prey, such as hawks, owls, eagles, things like that. Created in 2007 by...
Is this a day or a month?
It's the entire month of October.
Oh, so we just missed it.
2007, it was created by Avian Promise, a group that's out to raise awareness about wild birds.
Okay, well, here's my question, right? When does a holiday like that completely lose relevance? Because I can already tell you nobody cares. So when does a holiday like that lose relevance where it's not even marked down anywhere? Nobody cares.
Well, there's a lot of football teams that are named
like
after
Bosses
birds of
Day.
prey. So.
Nobody cares about their boss enough to celebrate Bosses Day. Or Secretary's Day. Even though Secretary's Day should be celebrated by almost every place that has a secretary, and it's not, and that's messed up. But Bosses Day? Really? Unless your boss is giving you like a $300, $400 bonus every couple weeks or something for being just an awesome guy or working hard for him, then you know what? Your boss is just, as long as he's paying you a paycheck, he's doing his job. He don't need no extra recognition. We need the recognition because we're working hard. We're getting the job done. He's sitting on his tuchus. All right.
Every day is boss's day. Every payday. Think how much more the boss makes than you in any job you've ever worked.
Exactly. That's why the boss don't need his own day. All right. What else you got?
Number 10, and there's probably a good contingent of people that have heard of this one, but some may have not. Rapidly approaching this week, November 5th, is a English holiday known as Guy Fawkes Day, or Guy Fawkes Night.
Oh, can I do it?
Bonfire night.
Okay.
Firework night. And you can do it.
Okay. Remember, the 5th of November. Gunpowder treason and plot. I see no reason why gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. Oh, you like that? How I kind of forgot the last part, and it said should ever be forgot. How did I almost forget it? But I love that. That's one of my favorite things to say on November 5th.
V for Vendetta is a great
movie.
The
5th of November. V for Vendetta is one of the best political movies that has come out in the past probably 2 or 3 decades. One of the best political
we'll touch on V for Vendetta in a second. But for people that aren't familiar with Guy Fawkes Night, Guy Fawkes was a member of a group that was conspiring to... This is Guy Fawkes.
This is what you call the Guy Fawkes mask. If you ever see somebody wear this, this is not the anonymous mask, and this is not the... don't even mention anonymous when you bring this up, because this is not Anonymous's thing. This is Guy Fawkes.
This was around long before
Okay, Anonymous. Just like the swastika is not Hitler's thing, it may have been tried to be taken over, and Hitler did a much better job of putting the swastika out in his name. But the swastika is a symbol of peace and has been for thousands of years, and it's not going to be taken over, and it's not going to be... And it's going to be another 100 years before anybody can use the swastika. Trust me. I wanted to use the swastika on our show and put it up and say, you know what? This is a symbol of peace, and stand by it as a symbol of peace. But you know what? Yeah. Somebody will freak out, and it's not even... It's still too soon since World War II. It's got to be probably another 50 to 100 years before people could start using the swastika again, and nobody will be extremely offended. Right now I'll be anti-Semite or something.
Yeah, a lot of people nowadays associate this mask with the hacker group Anonymous, but it's really meant for the celebration of November 5th every year in Britain. This guy and a bunch of his buddies planted a bunch of explosives and a bunch of barrels of gunpowder underneath the House of the Lords, and the idea was they were going to blow it up, but he got caught. So... to celebrate that King James I survived the assassination attempt on his life, the people lit bonfires all around London, and the day became known as Bonfire Night, aka Guy Fawkes Day. It's a thanksgiving for the plot's failure. And then a bunch of settlers exported it to North America when we came over here,
Mm-hmm.
And back then they called it Pope Day in North America.
Pope Day, that's different. Okay.
Interesting, huh? But they stopped celebrating it in North America at the onset of the American Revolution.
That's another thing I think.
But it goes on to this day in England.
One thing I want to touch on, just keep this in mind for a future show, not anytime soon, but eventually I do want to touch on it, is how much power does the Pope and the Vatican still have? I think that's a great thing to touch on, and it's interesting that a holiday such as that, such as Guy Fawkes Day or Guy Fawkes Night, would be renamed Pope Day in the United States. It's
that's what the early colonists called it.
It's pretty
Pope
interesting,
Day.
pretty telling if you know about the colonists and their background, their real background. Not
And
what they're fed in school.
I believe that whereas in England they burn effigies of Guy Fawkes, in the colonies they burn effigies of the Pope at the time.
Wow, yeah, that's interesting. That's really interesting.
I don't know how credible that is. That's from Wikipedia.
Well, I don't see. My thing is, were they Roman Catholics that came to America? I don't know. I don't believe they were Roman Catholics. I believe they were.
Some of them were. There was many people.
I believe the main religion was Judeo-Christian, wasn't it?
Majority of
I
it,
believe
yeah,
the
but there was
majority
Roman
was Judeo.
Catholics, there was Protestants.
See, like if it was
all kinds
mostly
of-
Roman Catholics, I would understand the Pope Day. Or no, if it wasn't mostly Roman Catholics, if Roman Catholics were the minority at the time, then I would understand the Pope Day. But if they weren't the minority and they were prevalent, then I wouldn't understand them burning an effigy of the Pope. I would think that would be sacrilege at the time, So I don't know. Interesting. Definitely the whole Guy Fawkes Day and Guy Fawkes Night thing, that is amazing. And the sad part is, it's in this day and age, when you think about something like that, you think about, well, could something like that ever happen again? Then I don't mean, trust me, I'm not sitting here thinking.
And this brings me
could
back
I
to-
ever do that, or could anybody I know ever do that? I'm not talking about that. I just mean in any point in the next 100 or 200 years, could that at all be possible that somebody could almost start that kind of a revolution overnight, or almost instantaneously? And it's
Which
really
ties
sad
back
because
to that movie V for Vendetta,
Yes,
which is not
yes.
about Guy Fawkes. But how do you explain that to someone who's never heard of it?
It's basically a recreation of what Guy Fawkes did. So if you watch
In a modern
in a
day
modern
police
setting,
state
in a
society.
modern setting with a police state, and it was almost like as if how our country will look in the next 10 to 15, maybe 20 years, what our country will look like. Because I'm sorry, it's not going to be flying cars. It's not going to be like what you see in Minority Report.
Yeah,
It's
we're
going
not
to
gonna
look
be the
pretty much what it
Jetsons.
looks like outside right now. Take a look outside. 20 years from now, there might be a new building up across the street. That's probably about it. You're not going to see flying cars and all this other. One thing I wanted to see, though, when I think about the future, though, is I want to see lights on streets. Neon lights lighting up the streets. Not street lights. Neon lights in the curbs lighting up the streets.
That would be nice.
That would be nice. That's the future. That's all we need to think we're in the future, is just some cool neon lighting, right?
Right.
And we're there. We're in the future.
And we're there.
Come on. Just come on, sidewalk manufacturers. Or not sidewalk, curb manufacturers. Let's go. Get some LED lighting in there. It might be an extra $50 a curb or something, but I bet you there'll be rich neighborhoods out there that'll start to use them and start to put them in.
It's probably
So,
cheaper than the street lamps that they put out now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I would think it would be a lot cheaper. Maybe not cheaper. Well, maybe even, I think it would be cheaper in the short
There'd
term.
be ways, because they wouldn't be running during the day. or anything.
And the LEDs would make them a lot cheaper too,
Yeah.
But you'd also have to take down your existing infrastructure of those street lamps. So it would take time, but still, why not try it? But what I was saying about the V for Vendetta thing is, V for Vendetta is pretty. It tries to show how it would work in a police state future. Even though it's the UK, it's easy to see it anywhere
It's
else.
like UK, 15 years
I think
from
it's.
now or
I
something
think it's
like
honestly.
that?
I think it's the UK in 2015 or 2017. I think.
Was it?
Yeah, but
I
it
have
also
to-
came
I
out in
haven't watched it in a
2004,
while.
2005, I believe it came out.
Yeah.
So it was like 10. It was supposed to be 10 years into the
Yeah,
future,
I-
where the police
I
state
think it
was
came out.
continuing to advance.
Yeah, it was
their
right
things.
before the 7705 bombings.
Yeah. So
That's what was kind of weird when that all went down.
what is crazy about that movie is that it makes you think that something like what Guy Fawkes did would be possible to happen again, and a revolution could almost be started instantaneously by one person. And the sad truth about that is, I don't believe that's possible. I believe a revolution is possible. I believe change is possible, changing all the wrongs, right every single wrong, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I don't believe
You don't believe killing the
that-
chancellor and blowing up a building is going to
you're only
change
going to
everything.
be looked at as Edward Snowden times 10, where
Yeah.
you need to be murdered. You're going to be look like
Benedict Arnold.
You're gonna look like the dude from what do you call it? From Eric Frayne. You're gonna look like Eric Frayne. You're not gonna be looked at, and nobody's gonna look at you as a hero or anything like that. You're gonna be looked at as a maniac terrorist who needs to be stopped.
Yeah.
The public opinion can already be molded like silly putty as it is. So all you need to do is mold the public opinion.
can
You
thank
think
mainstream
that's
television for that.
That person's a maniac. You know what I'm saying? That person's a killer. And what cracks me up is you see Eric Frayne gunned down 2 policemen, right? He killed one and one survived, or did they both die? I believe he
off
killed.
the top of my head, I do not recall.
I believe he killed one and one survived.
Sounds about right.
Problem is this. Here's the main problem with that. I agree that you need to hunt that man down and you need to kill him because he killed the 2 officers that could possibly be oath keepers and protectors of the peace. But problem with that is, why don't we do the same thing? And you don't even need to do the same thing. It would be a lot easier to nip it in the butt. But when police officers abuse their power and do the same thing and kill innocent civilians. Like the kid who a couple years ago, the Michael Brown thing for one, but the kid who a couple years ago was sitting in the back of a police car handcuffed, and somehow they said he was going for a gun or a knife in
I
his
do
back
recall
pocket,
this,
and they
yes.
shot him in the head and killed him in the back of the police car with handcuffs on. It's like, that's the type of thing where there needs to be equal justice. It can't just be somebody kills a police officer, you need to hunt that person down, and they're like a terrorist, but somebody kills a police officer kills an innocent civilian. It can't be a one-way street. Police officer kills an innocent civilian, and it's just he's put on administrative leave while he's investigating.
Paid vacation
And it's like,
for 3
no,
weeks.
if that police officer killed somebody and there's any doubt as to whether
That's murder.
he was there's any doubt as to whether he
The
was
kid's
defending
handcuffed
himself.
in the car. He's already handcuffed in the
Then
car. He was
you put
already
that
patted
officer
down.
in
You
jail.
know he doesn't have a
put that
gun on
officer
him.
in
It's
jail.
obviously
Yeah.
a BS
It's
story.
funny because Michael Brown's family is now going to the UN because it's obvious, and it never happens in this country. Anytime there's police brutality or police killing of innocent civilians, there's nothing done about it. So they're going to the UN to do something about it. And the sad part is, UN will probably make a declaration that something needs to be done about the police brutality or the police violence in the United States, but it'll probably just be ignored, just like the UN said that Israel is occupying Palestine illegally and needs to stop. It'll just be ignored. Nobody will care. The UN has power, but to an extent. The UN has economic power, but it can choose when to use it. The majority of it, that's the thing about the Israel-Palestine thing, is they may have declared that Israel's occupation of Palestine is illegal and they need to stop, but 99% of their members of the UN don't agree with that. Maybe not 99, maybe 95 or 90% of them, but don't agree with that, so they're not going to enforce it because they're only going to anger their members. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to anger their members. They want to keep their members working harmoniously. So if that's one issue that most of them don't agree on, well, they might have declared it, but they're not going to enforce it. I don't even know if the UN has enforcing power. You know, and the UN has some sort of enforcing power. You know, the UN can put boots on the ground, but what kind of enforcing power does it really have over a government? As far as I know, especially when it comes to a government like the United States and some other governments around the world, is it doesn't have the enforcing power to demand that we do something, and if we don't follow through on it, then they can take action on us. They can ask us to do something, they can demand us to do something, but it's up to us whether or not we want to do it. You know, like Agenda 21. Agenda 21, like
Yeah,
that's Agenda 21.
a large topic.
That's a huge topic, but the thing about Agenda 21 is if you follow Agenda 21, there's people who have been following Agenda 21 for 15, 20 years since its inception and since the Rio conference, right?
1992.
1992, exactly. There's been people following it, and it was supposed to be implemented by the year 2000. Then,
but it was originally thought of in the 70s.
Yeah, it was thought of in the 70s, but it was changed from being implemented fully in the year 2000 to being implemented in the year 2010 or 2015. And here we are. We're, a month and a half away from 2015. And
you can see signs of Agenda 21 everywhere,
but you don't see it taking complete control.
No, it's incrementally.
Like supposed to.
It's the frog in water effect.
Incrementally,
you throw a frog in boiling water, he jumps out.
That's
you
not
turn it
what
up slowly.
That's not what the resolution
slowly
was.
close.
That's not what the resolution was. When they set a deadline, it's to be fully implemented, not to be, hey, we have it 10% implemented. That's why in 2000 it wasn't implemented, and they said, okay, we'll give you another 15 years. Well, what happens when the UN says, okay, well, we're not going to give you another deadline. You need to start changing things now, or we're going to kick you out the UN or whatever, because other countries are following up on this. You know what I'm saying? Other countries are. But then again, in many major ways, they're taking back wildlife, they're taking back nature, they're creating many more not wildlife preserves, but many more government reserves or government owned land, you know what I'm saying, that's blocked off, and that is nature, you know what I'm saying. They're basically taking nature and starting to lock it up and block it off, so it's theirs, you know what I'm saying. I don't want to say block it off as you couldn't go out there and explore that nature. You could still go out there and explore that nature, but they're blocking it off
within their terms.
They own it, but as far as they're owning that property, whereas before it could have been a ranch owner who owned owned 10,000 acres out from his ranch out in New Mexico or something. Well, they've literally either seized that or bought all that property at a wholesale bargain price. You know what I'm saying? But they're gobbling up all of this property. Exactly, they're gobbling up all this property. But the one thing you don't see is with Agenda 21, people are supposed to be huddled into core cities. You know what I'm saying? You're supposed to be huddled into Philadelphia, New York,
you just
Boston.
You just brought us full circle to Ebola.
Okay, we did bring us full circle to Ebola, but what if that doesn't happen? What if a year from now Ebola is completely contained and that doesn't happen? You know what I'm saying? It's a very
maybe
if it's a plan in action, it's a very slow moving plan in action. I think Agenda 21 is something for a whole nother show. Maybe we can even get into it next week.
Well,
there's a lot to talk about.
If you've ever read the on the quote unquote world government takeover conspiracy, the portion for slowly infiltrating the government over time and slowly incrementally the frog in boiling water effect, so the general public stays distracted and doesn't notice. Because if you do everything, if you come out full force, people are like, whoa, shit, you want to do what now? No, you can't do that. They're doing exactly what they said they were going to do.
Yeah, but my only thing about it is, which makes me feel that, and see, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I know it exists.
Well, it's protesters and rights groups that are slowing them down, and independent media.
But nothing
exposing
is
things.
Nothing is.
That's why it's not in full effect.
Nothing is stopping it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think.
But we're still slowing it down. That's good enough.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Exactly.
We
that's
need
what I'm
to stop
it.
Yes, but we're getting to that point.
I guess that's what I'm trying to say is, if it's incrementally put into place, then we are the type of public who will allow it, unknowingly allow it to be incrementally put into place. Whereas if it's all put into place, not at once, but over a couple year period of time, where there's going to be a huge backlash, and it's not going to ever get put into place. You know what I'm saying? But how long will the rest of the world wait? When other countries are fully complying, how long will the rest of the world wait? You know what I'm saying? We're not fully complying yet. You know what I'm saying?
No, we're resisting aggressively.
Well, I mean, even the government itself is not fully complying yet. You know, so that's where it's.
They've tried to pass things where, the underground media leak things out. People are like, "Hey, we heard about this. No, we don't want you to do this."
We'll definitely have to touch on this.
That's slowed them down.
I think this is a great topic to follow up on. Just because, honestly, like, if you think about Agenda 21, and I think the Georgia Guidestones could even be brought into the topic here, be brought into the conversation because of what is written on the Georgia Guidestones. But here's my question, and trust me, I know what is inherently wrong with it. But if those inherent wrong aspects of it are, I don't say tweaked, but if they're recognized and addressed and changed as far as the plan goes, could it actually be a good thing to stop us from destroying the planet? So 100 years or 200 years from now, the planet isn't on the verge of extinction because we've destroyed.
I am 110% certain that is a good idea, but I'm also about 95% certain that that's not what their concern is when they were writing.
Oh, I know that's not what their concern is.
It's a militarized takeover plan.
Well, trust me, I know that, but it's
very strategically.
Well, that's also another thing to get into. I think that's another thing to get into.
Yeah, that's great. Let's save the planet. That's
what
great,
I'm saying.
but not that way.
Any plan to save the planet or to stop us from destroying the planet and raping it of its resources, any plan that comes along like that, no matter what, even if it seems like it's a fully, like, it's a great plan headed up by great people or a great group of people, no matter what, once that plan is actually given the power to go forward, no matter what, there's a chance that there's going to be some sort of corruption in that plan. There's going to be some sort of person that realizes that they now have power and can use that plan not for its intended purpose of taking care of the planet, but use that plan to say, well, if I'm allowed to restrict people from going to certain areas or doing things in certain areas, well, why not restrict them from shit or stuff I don't want them doing? You know what I'm saying? Or what my group of friends or the guys that just gave me put $1 million in my back pocket and told me what they like and what they don't like and where they want people and where they don't want people. Like, what am I supposed to do for them? You know? Yeah, I'm gonna make things work for them. I don't care if I started out with good intentions. These people just put $1 million in my pocket. I can drive a Tesla now. I think, you know what? I'm going to do what they asked me to do and take the $1 million. You can't expect
Which
people,
more often than not is exactly how it happens.
Expect people to be moral just. So it's like, do we even have a chance? You know? And that's why I wish there was more people out there who made it black and white that they stand up for what is right and what is good, regardless of how it makes them look or what is politically correct and all that. I wish there were more people out there like Ron Paul, where you know if that person is in power, if that person is given some power, they will not abuse it. And they will not even attempt to abuse it or anything close to it. They will use it for the greater good of the people. We've lost track. Our politicians...
Reagan was...
We personally, especially in this country, because...
I'm sorry, not Reagan. What am I thinking? Wow, Kennedy.
We have the ability to elect
I did not mean
presidents.
Reagan.
We have the ability to elect our presidents in this country, so really the problem with us is we've allowed our politicians to get to this point. We've allowed
because we
politics
were
in general to
distracted
get
by
to
all
this
these
point.
wonderful excesses they keep throwing at us.
Well, but in all reality, that's no excuse.
No, it's
That's-
not. Hence, we are not distracted like most people are.
Exactly, that's no excuse. I look at that, and it's not putting anybody down, but I look at if you're distracted by all that, and you let yourself be distracted by all that, then you get what you get. You know
What I love is these people that don't know a single thing about politics that'll like sit there watching, you know, whatever. What's popular on TV nowadays? I couldn't even tell.
Daily Show? I don't know what you're talking about.
No, not just like random sitcoms and crap like that.
Game of Thrones, Walking Dead.
Okay, yeah, there's people sitting there watching these, and then you'll run into them, or they'll hear something on TV or the radio in passing. Oh, man, stupid Obama, he don't know what he's talking about. And then it's like you confront them and realize they know absolutely nothing, and I'm sitting there like, you give up, I think you give up your right to have an opinion on it because you...
Here's the main problem.
Because you care more about The Walking Dead.
I want to wrap it up.
Part of The
with this.
Walking Dead.
I want to wrap
Or
it up
zombie.
with this. This is one of my main challenges I've had over the past few years, right? Is when we come across someone, because things are never going to change if this doesn't change, okay? When we come across somebody like me or you, right? If we come across somebody who is not politically awake or does not politically understand what is going on with the world, or even on a larger scale, I don't want to just say politics, with the pharmaceutical industry, military-industrial complex, so many different things. If you come across them and they're ignorant to the facts, or they refuse to believe what you're telling them or anything like that, it's very easy, and I think a lot of people do this, is to judge that person, immediately judge that person as either being an idiot or they don't care or this or that, and not realize, and we very often like to forget that a lot of times you can't force somebody to know the truth. They kind of have to discover it on their own, or something has to bring them to want to know that on their own, or else they're just going to ignore it every time they hear it. So the one thing that
The common answer I
do,
get is, I don't care about that, I don't pay attention to that.
Exactly.
That doesn't affect me. It
And
does affect
well,
you.
here's exactly. What did you just do? You got a little upset about that, because it's easy for that to get you upset, because it's like, well, you have to care. No, it's not like, oh, well,
Yeah.
I don't care. No, you need it. You
You not
care
caring
because-
is how we went from where we were to
Exactly.
where we are.
And
Now
I
think
think
about
things
where
are
we're
gonna
gonna
change.
be if people
But
keep
it's
saying
easy
I don't care.
But exactly like what you're doing now. It's very easy, and I've done the exact same thing, to get mad at that person and be like, well, you don't understand how this is a big deal, or this is very important. Like, it's very easy to get mad at them, and that 99.9999999% of the time accomplishes
Nothing.
zero. Absolutely zero. The best thing to do, and I've seen you do it plenty of times, is to just give people the information. Don't make assumptions on that information. I think that's the one mistake that you make. I'm not looking down on you or anything like that. But don't make the assumption that that's what that leads to, that what you're telling them is correct. Just give them that background information and say, well, that's what led me to make me think that that's correct.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that it leaves the door open for them to say, okay, well, I don't think that means that that's correct for me. But if you say, well, that's what led me, then they might not say right then and there, like, oh, well, maybe you're right. But they might go home and look into it. Whereas when you got mad at them, they were just like, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like they have no interest in looking up. Even if you got mad at them, and then you're like, no, but this is why I'm telling you this is right, or why you need to care about this, because all this information, you share all this information with them, and they just don't care because they're still thinking, well, you get mad at me, like really, like. Let me live my life, you know what I'm saying? Instead of just sharing information in the calmest way
these
that
people
we can
don't
with people.
realize is
Because
this
once
is
people feel
going
judged.
that's going to affect their ability to live their life if things keep spiraling out of control in the downward spiral that we're
But
going
the thing
in
is,
society.
you're never going to be able to force anybody to realize that we're on a downward spiral. You know,
That's true.
the
Mainstream
problem
media
is,
keeps telling them we're going up.
all you can do is share information with them and hope that they come to that conclusion themselves, not ask them to come to that conclusion or try and force that conclusion on them. You know what I'm saying? All you can do is share information with them and hope that they come to that conclusion
Is it
themselves.
safe to pet the kitty or will I get Ebola?
No, the kitty is Ebola ridden.
Okay. She's good.
Yeah, unless flea collars get rid of Ebola. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
No, I said unless they do. I don't think they do. All right, well, we're going to wrap it up. That was a pretty fantastic show. I know we ran probably like good 15, 20 minutes long here, but it was definitely a great show. We'll touch on, what was the one thing that we were just talking about? We were talking about for a while.
Agenda
I said we'll touch
21.
Agenda 21. We'll touch a little bit on that next week. I know you don't like Glenn Beck, do you?
There was a time I liked some of what he was saying, but then I
All right, well,
learned some of his background. And
exactly.
I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
like him
I'm
now.
not really a fan of Glenn Beck either, but I saw a book at Staples, believe it or not, in their like dollar bin. They had like a dollar
Agenda
clearance
21?
bin. It was called Agenda
I
21.
read it. It is
You read
terrible.
Oh, it's terrible.
But-
Okay,
but-
cool. Well,
but
perfect, awesome. Well, maybe
The
you can give us a
details
little.
of how the people
Okay,
live
cool,
in it,
cool.
it's
I don't want to
pretty
hear. I don't
accurate.
want to hear anything more. Or save it for next week because that's going to be awesome. I can't wait to hear your review if you can write it.
I read
up,
it
that'd
years
be
ago,
awesome.
dude, when it came out.
Well, I have a copy of it if you'd like to take it and peruse through it. That's no problem. Because I'd like your quick, and I'm not asking for a 10-minute review. I'm asking for a 30-second review of what you think about the book. And because basically the book is a hypothetical of when Agenda 21 is fully implemented, what life will be like. But what I found interesting, and I didn't read the book whatsoever, I just read the synopsis on the back, is how it seems like it's set off in maybe a 50 year or 60 years ahead future where they can't even remember a time where things were different. That's just the way it is.
That's how it is.
And,
It's always been this
exactly,
way.
it's always been
Like
this way. And,
in 1984, it's
well,
always
that's what I'm
been
saying.
this way.
But we're not.
East
we're
Asia
not
was
even-
always our ally.
We're not 10, 20 years away from that, which hence makes me believe like when is the final implementation plan going to happen? You know, and if it's set so far out, is it even possible that it's going to happen? And if we don't do anything about it, is it possible that we're ever going to be able to get out of it once it is fully implemented? You know, if we're not going to do anything about it, then it's probably going to get implemented.
I believe-
and if it does get implemented, is there any way out? Probably not.
With the amount of time they've had to work on this plan by now, I would say that once it's implemented, it's going to be almost nearly impossible to ever get out of it.
Yeah.
Because the technology that they withhold from us versus the technology that they're taking from us,
Well,
confiscating
my main point was that basically
our rights.
we're being, not we, but what I'm saying is, when you first come across Agenda 21, anybody who's a conspiracy-minded person or a conspiracy researcher, when you come across Agenda 21, there's a lot of videos and a lot of information out there that leads you to believe that it is like next year going to be implemented fully and we're all doomed and like need to get out the country now. You know what I'm saying? When I first heard about Agenda 21, I was making plans to leave the country and not come back until for another 10 or 15 years to till Agenda 21 was implemented, and to see how the people treated it, and if there's any chance of it ever being removed. And if it got removed, I would come back to the country. But I was under the impression that within a year or two, there was no escaping it. I was going to need to get out of the country to get away from Agenda 21. And the more and more I've looked into it and tried to take as much of a level-head approach to it as I can, I realize it's like a 50. It's still a very bad thing. I'm not discrediting it whatsoever. But I get worried that some people out there are believing that it's a immediate threat that we need to take care of, or we need to do something about right away. We need to do something about it, but it's not something that is imminent and going to happen within the next year or two, and your life is going to change forever within the next year or two. It's a process that's going to take another 30 or 40 years for it to be fully implemented. But once it does, yes, it's a huge problem.
Because there's a lot of things that have to change before it'll be fully implemented. They have to change a lot of laws. They have to change.
And I understand why people are given the impression that it's a year or two away, because you want people to take we need to do something about it now approach to it, instead of, well, we got some time to work on it.
Yeah, they're going incrementally.
Yeah.
I don't want to know what the next step is. I want to start reversing it now.
So yeah, maybe we'll touch on that a little bit next week. I'll be interested to hear your review. And on that note, I guess everybody just have a great week. If you want to check us out, you can find us on Facebook.com/3NN Podcast. You can find us on YouTube. I believe we're YouTube.com/3NN Podcast. We have an email address. Brian has an email address. What is it?
Brian3NN at Hotmail.
Brian3NN at Hotmail. We also got 3NN at Outlook.com. What else? I think that's about it. Catch us next week. We're going to try and have a guest on. I don't know who yet.
We have a guest right here. It's Mimsy.
Yeah, no, Mimsy's not even a good guest. So, I don't know. Everybody have a great week. Sorry for this show going extended. Sorry for the camera issues. We're getting them figured out soon. And everybody have a great week. Don't forget to like us, favorite us, comment us, all that good stuff. Share us. Don't forget to tell your friends. And, I don't know. I had a
Share this video with everyone you know. Anyone you think would be remotely interested in anything we ever say.
And what was my quote? The darkest places in hell are reserved for those who, something like, the darkest places in hell are reserved for those who know what is going wrong, or can see what is going wrong and choose to do nothing about it. That's not the actual quote, but it's close to what it is. And I think that's what we're going to leave you on this week. So everybody have a great week, and we'll see you next Sunday or next Monday or something.
See you next week.
Yeah!